because she was almost, and I use this word lightly, but addicted to it in a sense. Like, she was in pre-contemplation. She didn't see that it was a problem, and in fact, she was enthusiastic about it. But that's apparently what the pro-Ana community is all about, is like enthusiastically supporting this as a lifestyle choice, despite health consequences. They totally accept that there are health consequences, but they think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so for the listeners who already know the answer to this, I'll just explain.
Oh, did you figure out what 40 kilograms is?
It's 88 pounds.
88 pounds.
Yeah,
wow.
So I was pretty close.
My 8-year-old is close to that.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
Geez, that's something.
Scary little.
Yeah, that's really tiny. For an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's underweight. So, I mean, we're talking about being pro anorexia, and the writer's asking, I mean, how can I even talk to her about this? I think it's her. I don't even have confirmation. I'll tell you this, writer, the very first thing I want you to do, I want you to talk to your sister, because you've noticed your sister is probably underweight. You've noticed that there's probably a health thing. You've heard it just, kicked down the road as an excuse of, oh, it's just genetics. And so you've overlooked it. But now you have good reason to believe that, this is probably an intentional choice on her part, and she is adopting a lifestyle of anorexia. I think at the bare minimum, you need to have a conversation with her and ask, is this what's going on? Is this your page? And, is this your choice? And what is your stance on that at a bare minimum?
Yeah, I definitely express a lot of concern. I would always encourage people to come at this from the perspective of love, support, and concern. Obviously, there are some pretty serious health consequences to this. If she wants to call it a lifestyle choice, fine. But even lifestyle choices have very negative consequences, and it's not wrong to express your concern about that.
Yeah. What's been interesting, Nick, is I've seen both sides of this debate taken to the extreme. So I've seen the pro-Ana camp that says, hey, my body, my choice. Do not shame me. I'm not going to fit into an image that, you think women are healthy or men are healthy at this weight. And I've also seen the exact reverse, where there's been this anti-body shaming movement, where there's people that are, what would be medically described as morbidly obese. And they're saying, well, this is my choice. I choose this weight and I will not be shamed. And, people will say words like health, like, hey, but what about health? Is that a meaningful value? And they'll say, you know what, that's kind of a bait, and that's a misconception, that's a fallacy. Using that word is actually like hate speech, like, your body.
Hate speech.
That's what I've heard. I've heard people get really, really passionate about this, and they'll say, you know what, you're body shaming me, and, using the word health is just another way that you approach shaming me, because, it doesn't matter. And so I've seen this on both sides, and, as therapists, this is very much inside of our sandbox, because this is an intentional behavioral choice that affects this human's ability to survive and ultimately be healthy. It does matter, and,
Sure.
That's something that we should address. So, I just think it's something like, if you're out there and you're thinking, gosh, do you know anybody who's, on one side of the spectrum or the other and very proud of it? And, is that something that ought to be addressed?
I guess, I look at this from the perspective of, you brought up like with the body shaming and what society determines is an appropriate look or size for a person. That's all subjective, and I agree. That's not a very good argument.
Sure.
I would never come at somebody and say, you need to gain weight or you need to lose weight because society has determined that this is your appropriate weight and you need to look like this in order to be attractive and fit in. I definitely agree. That is not the right approach. That's subjective. To me, health is a lot more objective.
Mm-hmm.
If you are so malnourished, your hair is falling out, that's not subjective. That's objective. We can see what's happening. If we're approaching this from the perspective of weight, and I realize that I'm not the victim here in this situation, so maybe there's probably some components here that I'm speaking out of school about and I'm not fully educated on. I get that. But if we're coming at this from the perspective of what is healthy and what your body needs for survival, I think that's a fair argument. I think that's at a minimum, that should be open for discussion.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And I like your point, right? Because it's one thing to say, don't shame me, I'm not going to fall into society's definition. Okay, fine. Yeah, we agree with that. We're healthcare professionals, right? So we're going to measure this by your choices' effect on your body. Your hair's falling out, you're missing your period, like, this is not good for you anymore. You have no energy, you're falling asleep in class, like, you're becoming skeletal, like, your blood pressure's, like, there's problems with this. And, I agree with you. I think that that's the standard we have to use. One of the things we've got colleagues in the community that really specialize in this, and there's some female therapists I know. I used to share an office with one who really, this was her speciality, and she had a scale in our office that she would put her patients on every single session, and she would keep a log of what their weight was, and she would set a goal for them, because that was the objective measurement of progress, was essentially, are you gaining weight, are you adding to your health? But one of the things that she's told me about that was that one of the things that makes anorexia or bulimia very interesting is that it is sort of a choice. People won't describe this as happening to them without explanation. They're aware that because of their own feelings, fears, problems, pain, they are intentionally malnourishing or intentionally having an abusive or dangerous relationship with food. And so in some ways, I think we can relate to that, especially from an addiction standpoint, in that it doesn't fall out of the sky and happen to you like schizophrenia. It's sort of what we've referred to in the past like a disease of choice. And so motivation and stage of change probably plays a big part in how you ultimately treat somebody with this.
Sure. And then you've got the added component of the feedback that you get from other people sometimes is supporting your decision. I mean, right. So from that perspective, it gets even more complicated than addiction because, there aren't too many people who are using meth, and then you've got people around them saying, hey,
yeah, right.
You're looking really good.
Yeah, right. This
You're
is
looking great. I like what you've done with your teeth falling out.
Getting rid of all those teeth getting in the way of the meth pipe.
Yeah. So
very efficient.
But then when you get into stuff like this, like it does, like she's got so many followers, like the whole thing becomes, it becomes very difficult to recognize problems because your perspective gets so diluted with all of the other information coming in that says you're doing the right thing.
I agree. And this is the bandwagon effect that has changed a lot of our career and changed how healthcare works. Because when we treat addiction, we try to tell people, get away from people, places, and things that advocate for doing this, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody who's enthusiastic about this, anybody who has not taken a position of in recovery, intentionally living a life separate from these abusive substances, is dangerous for you and could easily trigger you and tempt you to come back into this and make it seem like no big deal, or even make it seem like it's a great thing. They're enthusiastic drug users. And I think that that's where Pro-Ana is very similar to that, because it is a movement of encouragement and like a support group to help people reach their goal of like premature death. Right. And it's almost that insane. Now, I'm sure there's somebody listening who might say, listen, it's not quite as dark as all that. There are some boundaries, some guidelines, some rails here. Maybe. But, guys, if you know anybody out there that's going through this, and to the listener, I'm going to tell you right now, my first advice is you need to confront your sister. And I want to go with what Nick said, right? You do it in a tone of love, in genuine concern, non-judgment. You come to her and you say, listen, I'm worried. Is this you? Is this your profile? Are you pro-Ana? And can we discuss this? And invite other parts of your family to be involved in this. And if ask if she'd be willing to sit down with a therapist and at least discuss why she's reached these choices, because they affect her health. These are permanent decisions she's making.
Yeah, or even get her, her primary physician on board.
Yes.
And get, it's quite possible she hasn't seen a doctor in a long time, because I can't imagine a doctor would just be perfectly fine and not express any concern about her low weight.
Yeah, or she might be hiding it. Yeah. They're already using excuses like, oh, it's just genetics, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, especially if you're another female with those exact same genetics and you don't have that weight, and then you probably are thinking, geez, I'm a balloon, man. I'm so huge. What's the deal? No, you're not. You're probably the real genetics, and she's the one faking it. So, to the writer, though, listen, my heart is with you. You need to take anorexia very seriously. Okay, this is a cause of death. It is a cause of permanent organ failure and hair loss and inability to make the reproductive system function. And we see it in women and in men. But it is something that ought to be taken seriously. I am not a supporter of things like Pro-Ana. I think it is an overhyped misguided effort to, be encouraging of bad ideas. So I encourage you to come to your sister honestly and proactively and talk about this and see where that conversation goes.
Yeah, thank you for writing in.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we've got a question about a girlfriend who won't post pictures on social media. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Hey, Therapals, have you purchased your ticket to Scoop Fest 2018
Scoop
yet?
Fest! Salt pork!
Salt pork? That's a long story. We'll explain it later. Our friends Matt, Paul, and Jacob over at the Ice Cream Social are working very hard putting together their 3rd annual weekend-long comedy and podcast festival in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, October 12th through the 14th.
October 12, 13, and 14.
Enjoy live comedy, variety shows, the Scoop Talent Show, the Jock vs. Nerd Costume Ball, and much, much more. And guess what? They're having live recordings of podcasts.
What kind of podcast, Nick?
Guess what podcast is going to be there?
I mean, like good ones probably. Like maybe
most
Penn
of them
Sunday
are.
School.
There's
Is
one
that
that's
gonna be
not
there?
so good.
Okay. Can I guess which one that is? So is Penn Sunday School going to be on it?
You're right.
Oh my gosh, what about Player One?
Player One's there.
And of course, Ice Cream Social.
Of course.
Oh my gosh, those are some of my favorite podcasts, but I really hope they don't invite those Pod Therapy dudes.
Yeah, what is your least favorite podcast?
Definitely Pod Therapy.
Yeah, they're going to be there.
Oh, well there goes the
so
whole
it's
show.
almost a killer lineup.
Except for that
Except for one flaw.
flat tire.
So if you enjoy live podcasts, be sure to get your ticket. And guess what? If you go to heyscoops.com/therapy, there is a $40 discount with your name on it. So buy your tickets through heyscoops.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next listener writes in asking why his girlfriend doesn't post pictures of him.
Okay, this writer writes in, my girlfriend won't post a single picture of me on social media. So my girlfriend refuses to post any pictures with me. When I bring it up, she says that in the past she's posted pictures with boyfriends and it hasn't worked out, and she wants to keep our relationship a secret. All of her friends and family know about me, but as far as social media goes, I don't exist. She also says that she feels like she's being claimed on social media if she posts pictures with me. I told her it really bugs me, and honestly, I think it's what dating is. Like she claimed me and I claimed her. It'd be one thing if we never posted any pictures, but she frequently posts pictures. For example, we went to a wedding and she posted a picture of herself with the caption, "My +1 is wine." Then we went on a week-long vacation together and still no pictures. I've been dating her for around 2 years and this has always bugged me, but lately I can't ignore it. I bring it up to her and she gets really defensive and says, "You know how I feel," but it genuinely hurts my feelings. I don't need to be in all of the pictures, but it would at least be nice to be in one. I just feel as if she's ashamed of me or something, and that really hurts because I'm so proud of her. Any advice?
Okay, this might be one of those things where we need women again to come in and tell us what the real deal is.
That seems to be the theme happening with this show lately.
Every episode we're like, all right, here's our best first draft, and we'll apologize for it in the next episode. But honestly, Nick, this really bugs me. Like, I look at this and go, what? Like, you went to a wedding with your girlfriend. She intentionally posts, "My +1 is wine," to imply to others that she, like, that's not just saying... that's not an omission, right? That's not just saying there is no boyfriend in this picture. It's kind of misleading the public into believing there isn't a boyfriend. And that's really going beyond. And that kind of like makes his point where he's like, yeah, like you're not just not including me, you're sort of falsifying. Like you're sort of falsely presenting yourself as if you are single. And this is becoming a problem for me, right? Because that is part of our lives. It's part of your public persona, and I feel like I'm not included in it. That really bugs me, man. I mean, one time you and I were joking that, you know, do you have to wear a wedding ring? That was a question we got.
Right.
And we were like, well, I mean, no, but you better change your Facebook profile. As long as you do that, like that's the minimum. But I don't know, man. My first take is like, gosh, what's this person up to? I don't know.
So yeah, when I read this is the first time I'd read it. I had read the the caption that you put on here ahead of time.
Yeah.
And my immediate thought was, well, this isn't going to last.
Oh,
so
yeah.
reading this, I was surprised that they've been together for 2 years.
Yeah.
That actually
2
really shocked
years?
me. I've been in a similar situation. I've dated somebody